right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening and greetings to our venerable monks and nuns. And also good evenings to our friends who are watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. And it is a great joy to have our bi-weekly sutra discussion with our venerable colleagues who are joining from different cities. So I will introduce the venerable monks and nuns to you. First of all, let us begin the session by paying respect and homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I pay my respect and homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Dear friends, as I said, this is such a great joy to have the presence of the venerable monks and nuns from different cities. As Buddha mentioned in the Mangala Sutta, the Discourse on the Blessings, one of the great blessings is to have to be able to see the venerable monks and nuns, the monastics, Samana Nancha Dasanang Etam Mangalamuttamang, and I think every 2 weeks, our friends get to see all these faces from, and these venerable monks and nuns are doing amazing job in their areas. So today we have Venerable Katugastu Parata Naika Haudru, who is joining us from Washington, D.C. And we have Bante Vansananda joining us from Niagara Falls, Buffalo, and New York State. And we have Bante Horana Anuruddha. He's joining us from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And we have Venerable Shaikadita, who is joining us from Montenegro. It's a midnight for you. I'm very happy to have you. Then we have Venerable Tridao joining us from Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, right? Yeah. And we have Venerable Shanta Sobana. He's joining us from Hollywood, Los Angeles. And we have Venerable Bante Ananda Kalubovila. He is joining us from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And we have Bante Kusala. Of course, he's here with me in Toronto, Mississauga. And then we have Bante Jinananda joining us from Ottawa, Canada. Then we have Venerable Dharani, who is joining us at the Dhamma Center, Virginia, USA, in Washington, D.C. We also have the presence of Bante Saranapala Thero, who is, but he has his video camera off. He's joining us from Vancouver, Canada. And our monks and nuns who went on retreat, and they are still actually on retreat. So I think by next time, our next discussion, we will be able to have more presence of the venerable monks and nuns in North America. So, but I'm very happy to have all of you for today's discussion. And also, I would like to welcome all our friends who are watching this discussion on YouTube and Facebook Live. So I have a kind request from all our friends. If possible, please share this program on your social media timeline for the greater benefit of your friends and colleagues who might benefit from today's discussion. So, dear friends, today we are going to talk about the Dasa Anussati, 10 reflections. These are 10 forms of meditation practices. You may remember some weeks ago, about I think in end of January, we had a special discussion on the difference between the sati and anussati, mindfulness and recollection. So we had a great discussion, and so there was a kind of a thought and intention or liking to have the second discussion on the recollections on the anussatis. But due to other global issues like war and conflict, we had to do some discussions on those timely issues and the problems, and people actually really enjoyed those discussions. So today we are having the discussion on the anussati. So first, I would like to invite Bhante Kusala to give an overview of the anussati. And I know all of you are well versed in these meditation techniques, and please feel free to raise your hand if you would like to make contribution or explain or tell a story about the anussatis. And dear friends, we also very happy to have Venerable Sister Kema. I think she's joining. Sister Kema, where are you? I think you have your cam off. She's joining from India, and we have Bhante Kamalasiri, who is joining us from Minnesota. So welcome. So Bhante Kusala, over to you. Give us an overview of the Dasa Anussati 10 recollections.
Thank you, Bhante. Namami Sangham. So first I will give a summary of the 10 recollections. Well, recollection is Anussati, which really means, in simple terms, you continuously think about something. And by doing so, you come to cessation of your suffering, to dispassion, to disenchantment. So these are the goals of these recollections. There are 10 of these, and we will be unwrapping all these 10 in today's discussion. In our one of our previous discussions, we talked about what Anussati really means and what Sati really means. So you can go back to that video for further information on Anussati, recollection, and Sati, mindfulness. But I think they are combined here in one way, that we continuously remember or establish mindfulness with one of these 10 ways, and ultimately you bring it to the fruition, to the final result of achieving Nibbana, ending of all sufferings. So the first one of these is Buddhanussati, a recollection of the qualities of the Buddha, why someone is a Buddha, what makes a person a Buddha, how great his qualities are, how free his mind from attachment, and how noble his living, his way of life is. And 9 qualities of the Buddha, famously known in the Tipisogata, in the famous chanting, can also be used for this recollection. So the second one is Dhammanussati, recollection of Dhamma, how quickly you can realize Dhamma and know the 6 qualities of Dhamma in the Swakhato Bhagavata, in that chanting that we do every day. And the third one is Sanghanussati, recollection of the qualities of Sangha, the noble ones who follow the path in presented by the Buddha. So you use the Supatipanno Gatha or any other way you can recollect the qualities of the Sangha. And then we go to the recollection of virtue, Sila, Sila Anussati. So the first three is Buddhanusati, the second one is Dhammanussati, the third one is Sanghanussati. After these three, the triple gem, we go to virtues, the Sila, which is about you, your unspotted, unbroken virtues. It's continuously reflected in such a way that it leads you to the cessation, to dispassion. So the next one is recollection of generosity, how generous you are, how much you have let go, how much you have renounced, and what made your mind to be so free, so simple. So you can think about these qualities in that recollection, and it leads you to cessation. And the recollection of devas, this is called Devatanusati. The previous one is Chaganusati, this one is Devatanusati. So you think about heavenly beings, many planes of many existence in heaven, many different heavenly realms, and you discuss, you think about them in your mind, and what makes one a divine being. What quality do you have? Those qualities to achieve those states. So you can recollect these qualities in your mind, in your practice, until you achieve cessation. And the next one is Anapanasati, which is very famous, mindfulness of in-breath and out-breath. So this too leads you to final cessation. And the next one is Marananusati, continuously reflecting on death, that we all die, and how it leads you to the cessation. You think about it not in a depressing way, but in a way that is productive to your practice, ultimately leading to Nibbana. Then you do the recollection of body, Kayagata Sati, many different ways you can practice repulsiveness of this body. 32 elements, 32 parts of the body, 4 elements, and 9 stages of a body in decay, and all these different ways you can practice it. And the last one is Upasamanusati. This is recollection of stilling your mind to achieve calmness in such a way that it leads you to final cessation. So I will also share, I think, a story, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on the time. So there is this one story of Venerable Mahatissa. We find this in Buddhist literature. He was so much into recollecting the qualities of the Buddha. And even on days that he can't visit a Buddha statue or a chaitya, a large shrine in some sacred city, sacred place, he would still keep thinking of the qualities of the Buddha. And on one night, he kind of focused on the moonlight, and he was filled with joy as he was recollecting the qualities of the Buddha. And he rose into the air and appeared in that shrine, the Tupa, where he wanted to be. And everybody asked, how did you get here? And he said, I was only thinking of the qualities of the Buddha. And this joy arose in me, and I'm here. And this also happened to a lady in Sri Lanka. This is also found in Buddhist literature. She was pregnant, so her parents told her, it's not good for you to wander around and walk in the shrine area like this. It's unsafe for you. But she so much wanted to go listen to Dhamma, listen to offer lamps at the shrine. But her parents told her to stay home, so reluctantly she stayed home. But she, focused in that direction, and from the distance she can see the lights, she can see the lamps, and she can see the shrine from the distance. And that too was an evening, and there was moonlight, and there was so much joy arose in her, and she rose into the air. She reached the shrine before her parents got there, and they were so surprised. How did you make it to this place before us? She said, I was thinking of the qualities of the Buddha, and this joy arose in me, and now here I am. So these are inspirational stories, and I think later I will share another story if there is time. I think this will be good for now for an introduction. We will hear from the other venerable monks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bante Kusala, for giving us an overview of the 10 reflections, Dasa Anussati, and also telling the story how when a devotee or a meditation practitioner chooses to practice Buddhanussati, and how his or her mind gets filled with joy. And I think now I would like to just ask a question from all the venerable monks and nuns who are present in this discussion. How do you, of course, we see that there's a, I see that Uparta Naika said, excellent, it is a great explanation. Thank you, Naika for giving such motivation to us. So how do you understand the practice of Anussati? I know there are 40 types of meditation techniques, and as we know, every meditation technique is given to a meditation practitioner based on his or her own temperament or behavior practice, and so it worked out. So now, in your understanding, how do you see the Anussati practice? Are these practices suitable for everyone? Anyone? Yes, Uparatana Kandru from Washington, D.C. You have to unmute. Bante Uparatana, unmute, please.
Anussati is a very important topic, and we have to concentrate our mind. We have to always awake and alert and mindfully keeping our practice day to day, and that's why that's the whole Anussati. And according to that topic, we are living, and our attitude and our activities keeping up. That's very important. Mindfully act with Anussati, and that also out of that 10, the important things, our Theravada tradition, we are always practicing Chatura Rakha. Buddha Anussati, Metta Anussati, Asubha Anussati, Marana Anussati. That's a 4 things very important. The Mahavihara traditional way, they reciting the evening chanting, that is thing as a traditionally done monastic side. That is very even the morning and evening, both time, they're reciting the recitation, very helpful to us to understand and thinking about monastic life, about the quality of the Buddha, and quality of the loving kindness, quality of the asubha and impermanency, and then death. That's all that things very important to keep our life to purifying from the away from the all the akusala karma, all the that's why this Anussati practice very helpful. Beside that, there's a 10 Anussati also very important as someone who practicing retreat or something, the keeping up for the very good meditator. It's a very good helpful topic object to practice. That's very helpful. And however, the Sangha, community of the Sangha, and the lady who following that Buddha's path, there's a for Anussati is very important out of that 10. That's my opinion.
Oh, thank you, Bantu Paratana, for giving such a wonderful explanation about Anussatis, how we practice. Of course, in growing up as novice monks, I say we had to do some at least 4 reflections, Chaturaraka, as you said, for protection daily, in the morning, in the evening, and so even now, we monks, either in group or personally, we still continue reciting those Chaturaraka for protections, mainly for recollections. And I think it's very important. Now, I know Bante Santosobana raised his hand, but before you, I think I saw kind of Sister Kema, kind of, no? Okay. Bante Santosobana from Los Angeles. Your thoughts, please.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sirs. And so when it comes to these recollections, we teach every day here. And when it comes to new students, especially with this is very important, because when newcomer come to practice meditation, especially they have their own behavior and they have their organized mind itself. So, and these recollections give them a very good foundation to start, because that even though that we have the final destination as the Nibbana, before we go into that, these recollections give the good avenue. It's kind of like giving them a window to see through their views, because otherwise sometimes when it comes to meditation, it's always hold with the values, behavior, attitude, that kind of things. So these 10 recollections, the practitioner or the yogi into the exactly to the right path, go towards the Nibbana. So that is very important, because nowadays when it comes to meditation, and as you know, it is a very wider topic, because there are many different kind of meditations come to, even with the Buddha's teaching also, that the people try to explain in different ways, especially in the Western. But in the Eastern, with the Theravada tradition, it's very clearly that authentically that guarded the Buddha's teaching with these recollections. So, and when it comes to that, especially the beginning, the foundation, and to get into the tranquility state, because most of time that we practice with the visualization and chanting and sometimes repetition with words, but still that some kind of techniques, I'm not going to mention here, but some kind of techniques not allow the practitioner or the yogi to get into the real tranquility state. But when it comes to these 10 recollections, without hiding anywhere, without going to any other direction, it deeply has a deeper connection to the tranquility state. And from there, because the very meaning when it comes to our practice of our teachings, and when it comes to the Buddha's meditation, and there is no doubt the main purpose is to get out of the 5 hindrances. So through these recollections, it deeply cut down all the mental formation related to the 5 hindrances. And that way, whoever practice this and has an opportunity, it's kind of like getting a ladder and putting to the exactly to the right direction, go towards the Nibbana. So whoever practice this, I think they can gain a great benefit out of this.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
it's a kind of like a good, the solid foundation towards the Vipassana.
So what you're saying is it lays the foundation for the great realization, the ultimate realization of Nibbana.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and as mostly there are discussions from the ancient time to today. Some says that 10 recollections not help for the Vipassana or the liberation. And but this deeply connected to the tranquility state. But when that it is very important, because when it comes to the tranquility state or the samadhi or the one pointness, and people achieved it different ways. And sometimes that whatever the samadhi they achieve according to their own point of view, it is going to be different. So, but here, these recollections deeply has a relationship to the Vipassana or the attaining to the Nibbana. The very reason is that these all recollections deeply has ability to get out of the self-centered view. So once the person, whoever practice this, and once the person has ability to get out of the self-centered view, and deeply it has a connection to understand or the experience the causations. So whoever experience the causations, and it has ability to get into the flow and enter to more higher experience.
Yeah, thank you, Bhante Santasobana. We see Bhante Ananda raised his hand. I know Bhante Anand is your first time joining this discussion. I heard that you do a marvelous job, give Dhamma talks nicely. And what's your thought on today's topic, the 10 recollections?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bhante. And in fact, thank you very much for inviting us for this discussion. So it's adding on to what our previous Bhante just mentioned. I see when Buddha was explaining things that he addressed a whole gamut of a spectrum of people. And even if the Uposatha Sutra to Visakha, it says that it is been, the first question is that there are 3 types of Uposatha. One for the cowherd, one for the of the giants, and the one of the noble ones, the Arya Uposatha. Yeah. And I think most of the time, most of these meditation techniques are associated with 2 things as per my recollection. The first is Samma Ditti. Without having that, it would be taken to a whole different area. And the other thing is the guidance of an advanced or a more experienced teacher. Someone who has already found some Samadhi and who has figured out the ways of meditation. Otherwise, it would be a blind leading blind. And again, relating to what previous Bhante mentioned, I think that this can be done in a few stages. So for example, I'll take a very gross example. When I was a boy, when I was at school, we used to do this sport called rowing. And rowing is a very physically intense exercise, like a sport. And there's this particular match called 2K, where you have to row for 2,000 meters, 2 kilometers basically. And we do practicing, so our physical form is very important. However, there's this phase where you are physically, you get into a phase after about 1,000 kilometers, you're totally numb. And more than the physical stamina, it's about the mental stamina. So when we used to practice, we used to, I didn't know that it was called meditation back in the day when I was 20 years old, 18 years old. But we used to sort of visualize what would happen when we pass each meter mark. And that was a fantastic exercise. In fact, it has helped a lot of people when they're doing their own rowing game. So I think that is one of the very basic layer of this recollection is. I won't even call it recollection, but it's sort of a what if scenario. So I think even Anussati, people use a lot of this what if scenario, what will happen if this happened to me, sort of a thing. And I find that it's a stepping stone. It's probably not what Buddha ideally mentioned. Probably it's what Buddha mentioned also. But from that stepping stone onwards, from that what if scenario making, which again, if you are not under a proper guidance, if you don't talk to a proper teacher or sangha, or if you have not figured out what samadhi is, that is going to lead you to a whole different aspect altogether. But then from that point onwards, I think another interesting thing is the recollection. And I find recollection, especially like Buddha Anussati. Back in the day when I was meditating with Buddha Anussati Karmasthana, I think it's a great way, especially if you have that deep faith inside. It's a beautiful and a marvelous way for you to get into certain states of mind. Like dhyana, if you want to, like, it's an easier way to get into dhyana using these type of recollections. So it is not really a what if scenario, but more of a recollection of a particular quality, like Bhante Kusala was mentioning about that the incidents of the lady monk, nun. And the third part is, I think there's a different, at least to my understanding, that there's a different form of recollection, that which is not just recalling things or visualizing things, but you tend to relate with your deep understanding to things. So I don't know a proper way to put it, but sometimes you can relate it to a deep understanding, which is not necessarily recollection. And then I find after that Anussati, there's the mindfulness sati of that whole thing, which leads to that. And adding to previous Bhante, I think a lot of people say that it's only about getting into a dhyana or trying to get a siddhi. Siddhi is like a mundane ability. But I think it beautifully leads all the way to Nibbana, and it's a beautiful way of starting meditation.
Well, thank you. It's beautiful explanations, Bhante Ananda, and I'm very happy to hear all this perspective. And also, here's a kind reminder to all our friends who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube Live. If you have any questions, please make a comment. I'm monitoring your questions, your comments, and I will take the question, and I will ask your question from all the venerable monks and nuns. So now this just occurred to me as you were talking about this, explaining the 10 recollections. Is now in modern psychology, there is a form of the techniques is called the shifting attention. So like, people are getting stressed out, people are feeling anxious, people are getting panic attacks, people are depressed, and people are in pain, people are in fear, people are feeling guilty. And so this is because I think people are stuck with something negative, right? Something like the dark side of their life, maybe something that happened to them. So they're stuck and they are thinking about it all the time, the negative stuff. Now, my question is, does Anussati would help someone to get out of stress, anxiety, depression, the negative side of their life? And of course, as we understand, the Anussati is about thinking something positive. Maybe minds are stuck with the lower perspective, lower consciousness, lower things, lower experiences. Is this technique a way to elevate those people to the higher consciousness, to get the higher perspective? Now we have, okay, Venerable Trida, hold your thought, okay? Venerable Sister Kema from India. You have to unmute yourself. Sister Kema,
Yeah. This is what I wanted to talk about. This is a very important point. First of all, let me run through a thing here very quickly. To experience Nibbana the first time, you have to fall into cessation, into Nirodha first. And you must reach this right condition. And so we look and say, what is that? That's the empty condition, an empty spot of thinking, empty thinking, stopping all other thinking and just watching. And right condition is an example of letting go of all thinking. And in order to do this, this is all attached to purifying and retraining the brain, which is what we're all talking about. And the interesting part of this, is that to accomplish this, the brain, if we look at the brain is incredible, because it's not just thinking thoughts for right now, it's running the whole entire body. It's the main control center of the body. If we say that we're going to believe mind is the forerunner of all states, mind made are they, we're saying that's where everything starts. And the Buddha did this remarkable thing. When he was teaching his meditation, I was discussing the other day, they were saying, oh, he was so this and so that. I said, he was an activist. He was a rebel. He changed the meditation that was happening all around him from the subject and the object to the subject is the object. And not only this body is the object, but the actual control center is going to be the principal object. We're going to go to the head of the class. We're going to examine the mind specifically. Okay, the brain. In order to do that, if you start to explain to someone, what is this purification and how does Nibbana happen? How does it all occur? Medically speaking, all the spinning of each single thought that's spinning around in dependent origination is not like just one circle. It's more like a slinky. You know, a slinky was that long metal coil thing we had going down the stairs, and it had all these coils in it, you see, and they're spinning all the time. And this is a remarkable experience when you start thinking about this slinky and it's spinning like that. How are you going to eliminate that? And so I like to play a game and say, okay, why don't we experiment to see if what is left when we let go of all our thoughts. And when we look at that one, I always go back to Baddha Karata Sutta, the past and future thoughts, and try to get you to just think about present thoughts. And what happens, the question about this, medically speaking, that's really interesting to the medical community, is when you do experience Nirodha and everything else shuts down and there's an absolute stop, and then you reboot your mind and you come out of that, and this opening happens, and the Nibbana, the experience is this remarkable thing. I can't tell you if that's really what's happening with what we're doing, but what does happen, I'm not going to say, the reason I said that is because people want to talk about Nibbana, but the thing is, nobody knows what that was because none of us were there in the time of the Buddha. We all need to just accept that fact. But what is happening is when we're attempting to let everything else go and watch and see what happens to your brain, to your body, to everything, if you do experience where everything, all the other thoughts have stopped, and your curiosity point is to observe what can happen with that brain and the potential of it also after it happens, if you did get to the place of cessation. And why does your facial expression change and your eyes become natural and bright and your skin change? And why is all this energy come flooding into you when it happens? And why is everything sharper with hearing and sharper with seeing and smelling and tasting and everything for a while after this happens? What is that that's happening? This is what fascinates me. Now, what you're all talking about is perfectly in line with this part of it. And we had an experience once. The effect of this is remarkable. So I'll tell you a little story. I did a retreat, I think, with Bhante. It was back in 2017, I want to say, in Kazakhstan. And this retreat in Kazakhstan, there were many things that were happening that were unusual for the people who were attending. Many had never had a chance to go to a retreat before. And there was a couple of strange things, and one of them was sleepwalking. There were two people that had a problem with sleepwalking. Now, nobody knows how to explain the anatomy of sleepwalking and what the problem really is. But Bhante got this idea of Anussati, of let's just have her do the 9 qualities of the Buddha and teach her how to do it on the beads. But the first thing we did with her was we did Buddha Dhamma Sangha. That's all very simple things. You're not exposed to the Buddhist world. Let's start here. Buddha Dhamma Sangha, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, Buddha Dhamma Sangha all the time. When you're walking, all the time when you're thinking. Even doing that and understanding the 9 qualities of the Buddha, when we put her on the beads, the sleepwalking stopped. The sleepwalking stopped completely. Now, why did the sleepwalking stop completely? Because of the frightening experience she had had, and she had been exposed to a lot of PTSD experiences. So you're talking, when Bhante Sarnapal is talking about this, or the questioner is talking about this, you're talking about, is this effective with PTSD? And the whole idea of thought transference, moving the thought of the mind to another place, is exactly where you start in the beginning of all this. And that's what we're touching on. And that's what we're teaching. And this can be not necessarily only from Buddhist religion, but from any religion. For instance, if I go back to the nuns, some of them were not sleeping so well when they started that retreat with me. And we did this kind of thing of the basic things to think about. And we did thought replacement. If you go to the Vajrabhava Sutta, that's the Buddha's example of thought replacement, immediate replacement. 16 examples of, you know, if you are fearful, well, then think of courageousness. You know, and it goes down a whole list here with the mindful of ill will. I will sit with loving kindness instead. You're giving yourself a directive, and that's all you're going to think about. Anything else that comes in your mind, you teach them, never mind, let go, relax, smile, and come back to just this thought and see if that thought fades away. So what are we learning? We are teaching people a marvelous communication system that everyone has in their body. So you say, is this available for everybody? Probably to different degrees. It is easy or it is hard because of the thoughts and crowdedness in their mind, all the different personalities. I think there's 64 of them or something like that. You know, okay. But it's going to be healthy for any one of those 64 people to practice taking something that is causing a problem in their life. And when I had a student just last week who, this was Stop the Sleepwalking was the best example I can give you. But I had someone last week who was so insistent on not trying what I was trying to ask her to do, which was, why don't you consider the fact that maybe nothing is happening to you? And they looked at me really strange. I said, because you see, the truth of the matter is everything is happening from you, not to you. Well, that never occurred to her. And even in the conversation of trying to get her to try it took like 2 days to get her to try to do this. But her fighting against it was, oh, no, this is about me. Everything's on me. Everything is my fault. Everything's happening to me. It's all on me. And it must be my fault because I must have done something wrong. I'm there. Why do you keep saying that? What if it's not? So instead of saying it's this way, it's not that way, or this is true and that's not, or we're right and you're wrong, we're saying, but what if? And this is where the medical community is with neurocognitive science. This is where the psychology, the research is all going to look specifically and to say, just try this thought transference of what happens to you if you're really down and really depressed. Try smiling. And when you just smile, what happens to your mind? And I have a whole room. I like to do that with them early in the retreat and simply say, now, at the moment I tell, okay, everybody just smile, and I'll go and poke them with an ostrich feather or tickle them and say, you have to smile. Now, tell me what happens in your mind, in your head, and up here in the top part of your body into your heart. What happens to you when you smile? Because scientifically, all the other stuff fell away. And for a moment, if you can experience it's possible, then you can expand it. And the Anussati saved me greatly when I had an accident years back. And I look back and say, what is it that made me survive through that? I had a sort of a big cast on, and I couldn't move around a lot. And I was so frightened of it and wrapped up in what it would mean in the future and everything. I couldn't just relax at all. I couldn't clear my mind. And somebody said, why don't you start thinking about this and not thinking about that, which doesn't occur to you when you're in a tremendous amount of pain. And I didn't want to take the pain pills. I didn't want to take them. So I was trying to find a way to help. And so when you're talking about pain, when you have someone think about this instead of what's happening in the sarcoma inside the bone in a bone cancer, and you have them put their attention over here, this comes back to the basic thing that started John Kabat-Zinn on his whole trip. It was in a cancer ward with terminally ill children, where he was trying to see what would happen if you take the thought and you place it on a computer game, Asteroids, I think it was, very early, where you shoot the little things down that are coming down the screen. And if you concentrate on that, how many times will the patient touch the button to get the heavy duty pain medication for that next hour versus when they don't have the game and they're just lying there in pain? Is there a difference? And guess what? There is a difference. So what he got to was the beginning of discovering mindfulness can be directed by your personal attention. And this is extremely important. And this is what these recollections help us do.
Yeah,
That's
thank you, very much, Sister Kema. I think neuroscientists would be very interested in doing more research into the Anussati practice. I think it would be nice. Maybe we can encourage
doing this.
Scientists to do more research into this. When you do this recollection, and then what happens in your brain. I think you brought a great idea, and we will explore more on that. Thank you, Sister Kema. So we have 5 venerable monks raise their hand. Venerable Trudeau from Florida. What's on your thought?
Thank you for having me. Salutations to all the most venerables, and ayahs, bhikkhus, and bhikkhunis for having me. I'd like to answer the question that you had in regards to modern day negative thinking youths, negative thinking behaviors, and how we can apply the Anussatis at the recollections into cultivating the total opposite, a happy, tranquil, peaceful, compassionate, and kindful mind. Is that what we know about the mind, that it is very driven to think negatively. It had to, to ensure. And I have told my students that if I let you loose at night, walking into the forest, and you step on a rope, your mind will automatically believe that it is a snake to ensure your survival. And likewise, millions of years ago, we were programmed biologically. Comes now, we have the ability to think with the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, the limbic system, everything we know about neurology. And now, without proper awareness, without the sati portion of our teachings, one would fall enslaved to one's own habitual thinking of one's mind. And when left unchecked, the checks and balances of one's mind, then the mind is a very violent thing. The citta is a very violent thing. And we have to use the best available medicine of what the Buddha gave us. And how amazing to see the methodology, the methods that he left for us. And so much we have to do as humans to get everything in order. And so much do we have to do in order to practice with diligence in order to see the results, if that is what we aspire, which is true inner happiness, true inner freedom, true inner liberation. I have found for myself, we monastics hope to inspire by and through our own actions. We monastics hope to aspire all of you laymen and laywomen by where we've been, where we're going, and our future trajectory with our practice. And I have found that for my life at age 34 and meditating since I was 14 years old on the recollection of the Buddha, on the recollection of the Dhamma, the Sangha, on the recollection of Asubha Bhavana, and my favorite, which is meditation on death, that I have found it to give me hope during my darkest times of depression, during my darkest times of anxiety, during the darkest times of bipolar, and all of the mental illness as commonly seen in young people. So I hope that our young audience and many more are watching and are inspired by the methods that he left us 2,565 years ago, and how potent it is. The potency of these types of recollections will penetrate Mara at its core. That is said with capital letters, and that is said with a lightning bolt, with emphasis here, is that it's extremely effective in regards to the violence of the mind and how we battle the mind constantly from moment to moment, the samsaric cycle from moment to moment experiences, and when life comes at you. Of course, the life of a typical layman and laywomen is have husband, wife, kids, siblings, mom and dad, that drives them crazy from moment to moment. One moment you're arguing with your girlfriend, the next moment your mom needs you to do something, so it drives you crazy. And the totality of your experience at the end of the day, one must ask, am I at peace? And when we operate constantly without meditating on the choice that we meditate, if they drive us crazy and we get angry often, it becomes a habit. One must choose metta bhavana to try to overlap, or try to treat, try to mitigate, and try to lessen one's aversion, which is anger. And it is very important that, how much we live and operate in our 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours of waking moments. And yet I encourage everyone to try to meditate more and often, is because half an hour, really doesn't do it justice. And when you make it into a habit, then change can take place, and slowly your mind will be convinced and know how to respond skillfully to the depression, to the negative thoughts, the habituation that has been going on for years. And hopefully we introduce to the world today, if they were not aware of the 10 recollections, now everyone is aware of the multitude and plethora, conglomerate of choice that they can choose. So it's a good checklist for the laymen and laywomen. And meditation need not be boring. Typical Western mind is, it's boring. What are we thinking about when we're sitting here, closing our eyes and trying to focusing on our breath? So when it is boring, you have plenty to choose from here based on the defilements that you have identified. So if such defilements is identified, then one must choose to select. If you have a headache, you would take Tylenol. If you have a bacterial infection, you would take Cipro. It's no different that when you have anger, you would choose metta. When you are lazy, you would choose death meditation, Mara Anussati. If you are greedy, if you are hanging on too much to personal possessions, then one would choose recollection on generosity. Recollection on generosity, very important. It mitigates greed. And how do we improve our karma? Give more and take less. So the more you give and the less that you take in this world, the happier you become. And that you can also recollect that memory of giving to people and how many have benefited based on your kindful acts. Additionally, when one is too attached, we are more attached to our body than anything else, then one would recollect on Asubha Bhavana, the 32 parts of the body, and to see the true nature of reality of the body. So I like to conclude my my short talk there, and like to yield the microphone back to the
thank you. Thank you, Venerable Tridao, a beautiful explanation. And also, I think these 10 types of recollections are kind of 10 kinds of therapies. We can take something like that, maybe a therapeutic experience. We can discuss more. So now I would like to invite Venerable Ananda. You raised your hand again. I'm pretty sure you have more to share with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry for taking your time. I just had to mention this when Bhante Sarnapal asked a question of the therapeutic usage of this Anussatis. So I think there's been numerous and a large amount of studies on how meditation helps ADHD or PTSD, all sorts of studies. And there's this particular study, there's this particular field, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which is sometimes considered as the voodoo of psychotherapy. Some people don't like it. However, I find that Anussatis has a lot to do with linguistics. It's basically linguistics, and neuro-linguistic by nature is how you retrain your mind into a particular form where you want to get propitious or better behavioral outcomes using language. So I think Anussati has a lot to do with your inner language, which is not necessarily spoken, but the vitakka vichara really. So in a way, you train it into a particular manner, and then you have the outcome on your behavior, like Venerable Kema mentioned about this sleepwalking and all these ailments. So I think I wanted to mention that NLP is probably still a very underdeveloped clinical psychological application. But I think Anussati can affect a lot combined with NLP. Probably it's digressing from the original Nibbana towards more of therapy, but I think that's a good point that maybe others can share as well on that subject.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Venerable Ananda. Now, Venerable Anuruddha from Cambridge, Canada, you have to unmute yourself. What's in your mind?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us for this great discussion today. The question that you asked earlier was the is this Anussati helping to cope with the stress and my anxiety?
Yeah.
So according to my understanding, according to my view, all these Anussati, all 10 recollection of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and generosity, all these things until the mindfulness of body and mindfulness of breathing, Anapanasati, and recollection of peace. Until that point, other than these three, all the other Anussati I can consider as Samatha Bhavana. It directs you to the Vipassana. So when we are dealing with the people who are having stress or the anxiety and stress happens when we are thinking about the same thing again and again. If we get, if we lost someone close to us, we are thinking about him or her, and we have a kind of negative feeling and the sadness, and it lead us to anxiety or more depressed mood. So a person with that kind of mode or thinking, first thing that we need to make him understand to get out of that situation. So that means that we need to replace his thinking with something else. So all these Anussati help you to replace your thinking, your thoughts with something else. So all these Anussati comes with faith. If you practice that recollection of Buddha, that means you are thinking about Buddha. So if you have the great faith on Buddha, you can you can concentrate on about the Buddha. So you are thinking about the Buddha, and you replace the thoughts of the lost one with the Buddha's thinking. Like that, you can replace the stressful thoughts with this kind of Anussati meditation. So this meditation practice, but those things are not, these are temporary, the replacement. So again, it will come when once you are not thinking about these things, you might go back to your previous states. So these are kind of solace you can or kind of anchor point that you can replace the stressful thoughts. So after that, when you calm down, when your mind calm down, then you can start the vipassana meditation. That will help you to understand the Four Noble Truth and get rid of the all the kind of suffering permanently. So to come to that point, you need this kind of Anussati, or otherwise to come to Sati, you need Anussati. So Anussati help you to come to to practice the Sati. That is so this Anussati are really helpful to dealing with the anxiety and the stress, according to my understanding.
Amazing. I love that. I think it helps, you know, even for me, those who have come for the spiritual counseling. And of course, I tried, you know, teaching them or giving them this as a therapy and to see what happens. Actually, even yesterday, somebody came to see me very stressed, you know, very stressed out and kind of going into depression mode. So we did a kind of this, you know, Anussati practice. And
I have done too with some of the people who comes to see us.
Yeah,
it's really helpful to get rid of that kind of the anxiety or stress.
Yes, very beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Bante Jinananda from Ottawa. I know even a previous discussion you did not share anything with us. So today I'm happy that you raised your hand.
I think. Thank you very much, Bante, for giving me this opportunity. Actually, I'm in a bit of busy environment, so that I was preventing raising my hand and sharing anything. Anyway, it's a wonderful discussion about various aspects of 10 Anussati, 10 recollection. Yeah, I'm agreeing to many points of those wonderful monks said. What I wanted to share is that, when we look at the 10 Anussati, the question we should keep in mind, if we analyze them in depth, what kind of outcome we expect from these 10 Anussati. If you look at the first 6, there is one thing that the meditator should expect, that is a kind of prasad. You know, by thinking about the Buddha and also the Dhamma and Sangha and Sila and the other thing, we try our best to prepare ourselves for something greater. As Venerable Anuruddha a minute ago said, Anussati is helping for someone to come to Sati, which is wonderful to say, because it is according to Satipatthana Sutta, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So they are all in line with Anussati. So you look at those aspects of Satipatthana so that you are getting ready into absorb the perfect Sati. So I think first 6 provide us a kind of faith, and the initial faith is being developed with this practice, so that you are getting ready to practice other things. Like when you practice mindfulness of death, it provides you a sense of urgency. You are going to die and you are going to have the same thing. Just get ready to hang on to something greater. So then Kayanupassana, the mindfulness of breath and other things provide you some ample ground for you to get into deeper levels of the Dhamma. So, however, when the Buddha said set these 10 together, the level of mindfulness here with the in and out breathing would be different from what he expects from the Anapanasati Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya and elsewhere. So I think these 10 provide such a background, and I wanted to share what actually Venerable Anuruddha said, so I do not want to repeat it. What he said was what he said is confirmed by me, and that's what I wanted to share, Bante.
Oh, thank you, Bante Janananda. Now, Bante Kusala, you raised your hand again. So you gave us an overview. I'm pretty sure after listening to all the explanations by the respected venerable monks and nuns, you have more thoughts to share with us.
Well, Bhante, so I remember as a child learning the 9 qualities of the Buddha in that Gatha and using it every time when there was a fear, say fear for darkness. And parents or grandma would say, just chant Itipiso and you will be fine. Yeah. That's how we grew up with this,
Yeah.
Something larger than you, something that can protect you, something that is sacred out there, like the Buddha. And immediately all that fear sort of, it doesn't vanish completely, but there is an effect of that, There's something to protect me when nothing else is around. So especially, as we grew up in Kitulkote village in Uva province, there were many elephants, starting around 6 in the evening, because our parents were doing vegetable farming. So we had many farmlands around. So elephants love to roam around in this area. But our temple, we don't have cars to get to the temple. We just walk. And in the darkness, when we see a shadow of a tree, sometimes we think it is an elephant. So first thing that comes to our mind is Itipiso, the qualities of the Buddha. And immediately there's this relief or something to protect me. And this, gave us a habit. Sometimes before even an exam, there is anxiety. So what do? We think about Itipiso, the 9 qualities of the Buddha, to calm us down. So these practices make me think that, other than the spiritual goals, even in the day-to-day life, in worldly matters, to say, we have used the recollection of the Buddha. And I loved Venerable Tridao's explanations of, I loved all the explanations of all the monks. The way Venerable Tridao explained, just like you take medicine for the body, you also need to look at what your mind needs and, feed the mind accordingly. Because we tend to think about, boys think about girls, girls think about boys. So easy to do that. What if we, instead choose to think about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, what is the shift, what's the transformation that happens in your mind? Think about Asubha, Kayagata Sati. There's this story about this monk. He was, he identified that he had so much lust in him, and he chose to recollect on the Attika Sanya. This is also found, this is a story found in the Buddhist literature. So Attika Sanya is all about thinking about bones in your body. This is just a skeleton, nothing more, nothing less. Don't be attached to it. People will put makeup and hairstyles, and don't look at any of those beautiful clothes. Just look at everybody as a skeleton. So when he was walking to Anuradhapura city, this monk's name was Dasa, and he saw this beautiful woman, and she was dressed nicely, and she was running away from her husband. They had a fight, and she was running away. And this monk happened to see her, and she smiled. So the monk, didn't react. He went on. Yeah. And little later, this husband also was coming to look for her, and he saw the monk, and he asked, "Did you see a woman?" And he said, "I did not see a woman. I did not see a man. I only saw a skeleton." That was his response. It was working for him. The way that our mind can protect us from the danger of falling into the beauty of something, the way that mind projects it. This gives you this shield of protection. And I think, like your question was whether to choose it based on character. I think Venerable Tridao responded to that already. Yes, depending on what you are dealing with now, you have many flavors, like those flavors of ice cream. Choose one and work on it, and you will get to the peace, peaceful state of your mind.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bhante Kusala. I think that exactly what Buddha said in the Dajaga Sutta, right? When your mind gets filled with a lot of fear and
Exactly.
and all the negativities, then instead of thinking of those four Deva kings, you just reflect on the great qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The Buddha gives the reason why, because Buddha minds are completely free from all those negativities, defilements, lobha, dosa, moha, and so it works. And I think in a Buddhist country, I think everyone can relate something, like when they got scared. They started repeating it to be so Bhagavarahang Samma, so then all the fear is gone. It helps them become relaxed. So, what about Trida? You have more to share? I think what Bhante Kusala said.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Venerable Kusala. I still consider myself a very, 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 very junior monk, and to have a senior level monk say that, it's amazing. As I continue my studies and practice. Additionally, I would like to add what Venerable Kusala said is that, and I hope to inspire all of our listeners about the protective aspect of the recollections found in the Visuddhimagga, the four protective meditation function. And what we mean by that is the analogy of a house, and how well you patch up your roof so that water does not leak. Your mind is a house. And when you do something, when you dedicate and commit your intention, right intention, noble eightfold path, into the diligent practice with right effort, that you fully commit to patch up your house. Once we identify the problem within the mind, whatever that problem is, greed, anger, delusion, if we are ignorant of the Four Noble Truths, if we are honest to ourselves, then we will pinpoint surgical precision as to where that leak is, and we should fix that as long as it takes. And we should not half blank half finish it. We should not just do it and then run away, or and leave it the way that it is. Just like scrubbing the dishes, you want to get it nice and squeaky until it's squeak, and that is how you know that you got it. You're confident, full faith and confident that you got it down. You got down Buddha Anussati, you got down recollection of the Dhamma, the triple gem, you got down everything. Additionally, after telling you all to patch up your roof and do it the right way, and do it thoroughly, slowly, carefully, and effectively, I also like to invite everyone to also test the teachings, and also to go out in order to see the four sights that the Buddha saw. After one has studied the recollections, one want to go out in society and volunteer at a hospital, volunteer at a homeless shelter, and ask yourself, if these individuals would have benefited, and how does mindfulness of death, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of generosity, mindfulness of the Sangha could benefit you and could benefit other people. Because as we look at this and we look at our world right now, we see that Buddhism is the most effective and comprehensive educational system the world has ever seen. No school teaches this, and no school gives us the method, the people the method, in order to keep themselves in line and operate carefully, safely, with the one that they love, with their family, with their group, and their society, and community. And so I just like to, invite everyone to have a sense of curiosity after you study this or practice this. You go out in the world and you listen to your friends, you listen to your neighbors, and you see, interesting, this person is dealing with procrastination. One could benefit from meditating on the emphasis of time, the expediency and urgency of time, which is rooted in Mara Nusati, and so on. So of course, I invite everyone to have a creative mind and put yourself in all sorts of scenarios and apply the recollections to such scenarios as it will better prepare you for today and tomorrow and the future ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Trudeau, for adding more insights into today's discussion on the Anussati. And I think I think we all can try. And as you said, we monks and nuns can try this personally, and also we can encourage others to do the same thing. And I know that, for many years, I think since 1995, I have been running soup kitchens in downtown Toronto, feeding the homeless people. And I can visualize, how when the homeless people receives a package, a care package with a lot of stuff, you can see the laughter and the smile on their face, and they look up in the sky. They say, "Thanks God, thank you God for sending this divine man to us." So they also ask for the help. So when you feel kind of negative, or when you feel kind of, actually we all go through some tough time, and during such time, when you think about, when you visualize that, it elevates you, it gives you great energy. Bante Jinananda, you have more thoughts to share with us.
Yes, Bante, when I think about the application of 10 Anussati, I think that is one of the things that we should unfold for the benefit of listeners. What we have already shared are wonderful. However, when I think about some Anussati like Devata Anussati and Chaga Anussati, I just want to put these questions to this very high quality panel of bhikkhus and nuns. What do you say about Devata Anussati? So basically, it is said in the discourses that you are recollecting about the Deva, those the beings who have done some merits, and now you're thinking about them, just what exactly they made for, and what helped them to be like that. So what do you thought about it? I just want to put these questions to each and everyone. And when you come to Chaga Anussati, is that only generosity that you practice with material things? And how can you keep your mind on these actions you do for a certain period of time, and how long you have to think about it and or recollect about it in order to bring one-pointedness? I think Venerable Ananda, I think, said that this meditation lead us to gain samadhi and vitakka vichara. He mentioned about the vitakka vichara. So what can you say about it? That's my question. And since I do not talk about anything of this after this contribution, I just want to say that the best thing for many people to do in terms of taking these 10 recollection, according to the tradition, is to avoid 5 hindrances. So the first line of unwholesomeness we have to overcome either by any type of meditation is to attack these 5 hindrances and bring samadhi into mind. So I think while we use these 10 recollection or any of those according to personal taste, for different reasons, the tradition says us to overcome 5 hindrances. So I would like to say that because if you look at the entire Tripitaka, particularly one sutta called Ganaka Moggalana, Buddha advised a particular monk to do these type of recollection in order to get him ready for big training. So I think that's what I want to say at last. So I would like monks to talk about how do we practice Devatanussati and Jaganussati in a given period, and what exactly way we think about it. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's a great question. I think if no one can say anything, I will add something later. But I see two hands raised. Bante Shantasobana from California. Unmute yourself.
So thank you for the question that the Venerable G raised up. That I want to go into the Devata Anussati.
Yeah.
So when it comes to our human life, we have to understand it's we most of us based with our self-centered mind, and we always try to look into world that believing that what we experience is the right place. But I think that when it comes to Devata Anussati, it's give us opportunity to reframe our own point of view regarding the existence. So that is a very important place, because out of this all we look for the change or the transformation. That for that transformation, if we don't have any kind of goal, it is very difficult, because we all depend on the very conventional mind. So, and at the same time, we can't give a kind of like a lower existence, then it kind of like give us a kind of like a very negative way of understanding. So the Devata Anussati give us a opportunity for us to move forward, and at the same time it helps us to come out of this moment and go into a more better, higher place. So consciously, when the person have as example that if you are capable to imagine something, you are capable to become like that way. So like that, when we look into when we have intention to look into a more higher place, even though we don't reach to that, what happened deeply inside us, there is a deeper, that the transformation happened within the place, the gravity that hold itself with us. So that transformation that help us to release our own point of view, and so that way when it comes to the very conventional life, look at the world, that just rather than looking at a homeless person and asking, oh, you want to be a homeless person, or if you point out a millionaire and ask someone, you want to be a millionaire, and the people like to go towards that way. So like that when we come to the Devata Anussati, and when we know how they become devas, when we know the stories, when we know the path and how you can become like that way, in it itself help us to motivate and help us to become better people. That the same like that what the Buddha did to the Nanda, it's a kind of like a tactic, giving a candy, but at the same time it has a deeper purpose to bring a more bigger transformation.
Yeah, I think it's a way of transforming oneself. Maybe it's something like that. You become what you think.
Yes.
You something like, okay. I see another hand raised. Bante Vangsananda from Buffalo, New York State. Bante Vangsananda.
Thank you, Venerable. And so all the Venerables and especially Venerable Kema will explain the things, and what you are discussing this topic about the last question from the Bante Jinanandu. So the Devata Anussati, I think I would like to add some kind of things. When we think about the Dibba Sota, Dibba Chakku, it is means the little bit beyond as human naked, being the naked eye and naked ear. So the Dibbasota, what you cannot see, Devas can see. What you cannot hear, Devas can hear. So that's something better than you may add this kind of the qualities what Devas have. And another point we can add in the Khuddaka Nikaya, we found the Buddha has mentioned there are three kind of Devas. Uppatti Deva, mean by birth Devas, and Sammuti Deva, conventional Deva, and Visuddha Deva, by making mind supreme state, you become the Deva. Mean the Uppatti Deva, where the divine worlds who born, they call Uppatti Deva, and who become in the society, some people become very powerful and very blessed, and everyone respected people become like Devas. It's called Sammuti Deva. And Visuddha Deva, whoever eradicated all the defilement from mind and cleaned the mind, liberated ones, Arahanta, Pacceka Buddha, and Samma Sambuddha. Those are the Visuddha Devas. Then when we recollect the Devata Anussati, you may think of all that qualities too. I think so. I'd like to add that. But
no, I see that's a great point, Bhante Vansananda. You know, it's amazing how you brought it up. It's Sammuti Deva, God by convention, Uppatti Deva, God by birth, and Visuddha Deva, God by purity. And it's basically this form meditation. Maybe it's a kind of idea. Let's say if you have a devil mind, satanic mind, you're going to be devil. I said you're going to be suffering a lot. So how do you transform that devil mind? So this is kind of a strategy. Okay, how you need to, devil mind is a lower mind. So you have to elevate that mind to the higher level, higher consciousness. So I think in traditionally, people believe the Deva world is a higher perspective, higher consciousness. So I think we can discuss more, but we don't have much time. We have come to the end of today's discussion. And I know you have more to share, more to talk. And I know, Sister Kema, you're raising your hand. I can give you just 1 minute, okay? 1 minute to share your last thought. Unplug yourself. So unmute yourself. Sister Kema, unmute. Sister Kema, you have to unmute.
I clicked the wrong spot. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we all are agreeing that if you change your mind, you change your life.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And telling people that, they look at you kind of funny and say, how can that happen? And if someone argues with me that it's not possible, I'm stuck, I say there's nobody stuck. The wonderful thing about the Buddha is nobody is stuck because you can always change. So when you're stuck, I sometimes even laugh. I have to watch when I laugh with who, but I believed I was totally stuck. And they unstuck me. They unstuck me. And then I could tell someone else, you're not stuck. Nobody gets to be stuck anymore because whatever arises because of anicca, it's going to change. So if you don't know what to do and you're stuck, take 10 minutes, it will change. And you can change it by what we're teaching you. That is the wonderful thing about this. You can change it by repetition. And the science tells us precisely in how the habits can change. They don't happen overnight. We don't fix you. I don't fix you. don't know about anybody else, but I don't fix you. I show you how you can fix yourself. And if through repetition, you can let go of the old neural pathway of the habitual tendency and habit that was wrong by replacing it again and again and again through repetition with the new tendency, which is the purification and retraining. And that's how you change your mind. And I didn't know for sure till one of my students called me and said, I've been doing it just as you say for 2 months. And you know, something happened today and it's exactly what you said. I didn't even make it happen and I let go and I changed and I did loving kindness and forgiveness instead. I did it automatically. And that's what we're doing here. These are practices once a day or during retreats or however long that you are doing it in your routine and your discipline. It's teaching you discipline, and discipline is not with us a lot today.
Yeah, it's also something like it's something like a rehearsing. Right now, people do go for rehearsal,
exactly.
become better at it.
So even if you do it a little bit each day, you are working to let go of the old way, put the new way in place of it. We're not telling you let it go, eradicate it. We're telling you change it and replace it. That's the big piece the Buddha was teaching.
Thank you, Sister Kema. Today we had a great discussion. We had such a wonderful discussion on the Dasa Anussati 10 reflect. I know we did not go through every recollection in detail, but you know, I think these are the therapies given to 10 types of the psychological, emotional struggles that people have. And so this is wonderful to practice and we all can try. So I'm very grateful to all of you for sharing your insights, wisdom, knowledge with us. And in fact, you know, listening to you, you know, I'm learning much more. So I'm benefiting from this discussion. You all are well versed in Dhamma. So let us conclude today's bi-weekly discussion by reciting the Ovada Patimokkha verses. So I would respectfully invite Bante Uparatana from Washington, D.C. to to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses. Please unmute and
Thank you, all the venerable. May you well, happy and peace and long life, and stay with the Dhamma. Sabba papas akaranang kusalas upasampada sacitta pariyodapanang etam buddhana sasanang Kanti paraman tapotitikha nibbanam paramang vadanti buddha nahi pabjito parupagati samano hoti parang vihetayanto anupavado anupagato patimokkhecha sangvaro mattanyutacha bhattasming santancha sayanasanang adicittecha ayogo etang buddhana sasanang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bantu Paratana, for beautifully reciting those who are the Patimokkha verses from the Dhammapada. It's very beautiful. Those are the key teachings of the Buddha you have recited. And I'm very grateful to all the venerable monks and nuns for your presence today and for making such a great contribution, sharing your words of wisdom, the Dhamma, with our friends online. And I know there are people who are really benefiting from these discussions. So I'm very grateful to you. And I'm hoping to see all of you in 2 weeks' time for next bi-weekly discussion. So I will send you an email with the Dhamma topic. So until then, may you all have the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha for your health and safety. May Devas, celestial beings, continue to protect and guard you with the divine blessings. Thank you so much, and good night from Canada.